But we are starting today with the distressing images which have shocked the nation. Police body cam footage has shown the moment 18-year-old Henry Novak was incorrectly arrested after being stabbed by Vikram Digwa last year. The footage shows police initially believing the attacker, who claimed Henry had racially provoked him, despite telling police 9 times he could not breathe after being stabbed. Henry's pleas were ignored and he was arrested and placed in handcuffs before dying at the scene. And after his son's killer was jailed for life on Monday, Henry's dad, Mark, is now calling to make our streets safer.
Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him. We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone. This is not a case about Sikhism. This is not a case about racism. This is a case about murder.
Well, despite those words, Henry's death has already caused division. 11 officers and a police dog were injured following clashes at a protest in Southampton last night. 2 people have been arrested. Awful scenes. The entire story is just horrendous, Jane. I mean, where do we go from this? Is it being politicised now as opposed to, just like Henry's father said, this is murder?
Well, it certainly seems as though it is. I mean, it's such wise words from his dad, Mark.
The strength of character for him to be able to speak like that.
Absolutely. But, you know, there is going to be an investigation and it's a really complex situation, obviously, and I'm always mindful that you have to wait for all of the facts as they are to come out. But, you know, Nigel Farage has called for national pure cold rage. He's called it anti-white prejudice. We don't know that yet. We do not know that. You know, we don't know what was going through that police officer's mind. It's a very adrenaline-fueled situation. Let's see what the investigation shows. But what I will say is that, you know, back in 2022, the police race action plan, which is as a response to particularly the George Floyd situation, which of course wasn't even in this country. But one of the things in it was that they were talking about, you know, ending the racial disparity in the likelihood of people being criminalised. And you sort of think that and you think, how, whilst I think it's a, you know, it has the best intentions, how do you apply that to the everyday situation of dealing with crime on our streets? And I think, as Henry's dad said, a murder is a murder, a crime is a crime. So is it that, you know, what a lot of people are suggesting is that now every police officer is going out with this kind of anti-racism thing and thinking, oh my God, I can't just use my common sense in this situation. I have to, am I going to be accused of this or this if I act in a certain way? So I think that's what the investigation will come out with. But I just think it's a time for politicians to be measured and to let the investigation do its job, not whip up crowds. I mean, there's every chance a lot of those are rent-a-mob. But, you know, again, there are people feeling angry about everything in general that's happening on our streets. And I think that's, you know, all blown up.
Does it frighten you seeing those scenes, Mariella?
It frightens me. Well, first of all, I think that it's quite interesting to note that at the disturbances last night and the big march that happened about a month ago that Tommy Robinson was also present at, they seem to be almost entirely populated by angry, young, white men. And I think that there
was a lot of women there in Southampton.
Well, there were in the one a month ago. There was not a single female face.
Oh yeah,
in
no,
all of
I'm
the
talking about the
footage that I
Southampton
saw.
one now.
And so I think we have to seriously look at why there's this level of frustration and rage amongst that particular demographic. But I think also this is a one-off incident. If there'd been a spate of these things happening, then yes, I think the level of discontent might be worth considering. But to be honest, this is a one-off incident. It's an absolute tragedy. I think that Mark, Henry's father, is displaying the qualities that I would quite like to see our politicians and leaders displaying. And ultimately, you know, politicians are weaponising this for their own ends. And that, I think, is the disgrace of it. And I think that the division that you're seeing on the streets has been whipped up by the very people who are supposed to be, you know, in some way shaping and forming our society. And I
think that's what it's about. I think everyone's being whipped up into a frenzy and actually no one's listening, because actually, you know, I feel so much for the parents. Yeah. And like you said, I thought it was an amazing speech he gave afterwards. But all those people that are going out now and rioting and causing more, you know, injuries and hurting people, none of them have listened to what he just said. So if you respect what that family want, what he was saying was, they don't want this to cause division.
Like, are you rioting
it's not about
Henry,
racism. It's not. Yeah, they're just finding an excuse to riot. But I think what's happening is they're being whipped up into a frenzy about that by everything else that's been thrown on social media and people just screaming and shouting. And really, just take a step back. This isn't about you and your feelings. This is about this family who've just very sadly lost their son. So let's deal with that and not go out and try and kill each other and everyone else in the way.
And still, I mean, I say this every time and it sounds a bit preachy, but I would not do the job of a police officer. And so...
No, I think it's incredibly complex.
Outside of this, I don't know what has happened here, but outside of it in general, they put their lives on the line. It's tough out there. And quite often you're unarmed and you're dealing with people who are armed. Yep. But
I do think you have to look at an instance where a man has said 9 times he can't breathe. And
well, that's I'm talking about that. That's why I separated that situation from what I've just said.
Yeah, no, it is. It's different. And like you say, they're saying about 3 months, I think, this report before there will be potential answers. But like you said, all I could think about in the past few days was the family, that family, and just having to talk about this now. But, you know, and it's something no family would ever
live through all of this while they're going through their own grief as well.
And it was an incredible speech by his father there.